problem in Canada is a little bit more than I originally was saying, right? Like, because there's like a lot of my friends who have like, up in the reserves and stuff like that, that are like it's terrible. It's like not a good life. And it's like, why just those specific people, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, that is like, it's awful. So,
Yeah. That's where I was last week when we were talking about what was happening in Canada, is that some frustration around all the issues that we have with our Aboriginal Native community. And I apologize because I'm not saying all the individual names of the different groups there, but I mean, there's a real need, and they've been silenced for a long time in Canada.
it's
And they
pretty
haven't
bad.
received.
Yeah. So I've
Yeah,
heard
and I mean,
things. So
I think they also carry the wisdom of how we can get out of this mess, right? Like, there's a lot of wisdom in that community that has been
I think they're warrior spirits, right? So, um, yeah, it's pretty. I know a few in the community that have gotten clean and sober, and some of the things I've heard, it makes me reevaluate a little bit my perception on how minorities are treated or people that don't look like, you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, even still from I mean, I'm still flabbergasted because I think my nature is not like, I'll never understand it. How you can see one person different from another. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I just like my nature. I can't do it.
Well,
So,
and I think we see hardship in a lot of people's lives, regardless of what their DNA is. That I
right.
mean, I've seen a lot of people who have suffered great injustices, great challenges, and oppression, etc. Sorry, two
Hi,
dogs.
I see a
One
kid appearing.
time.
Hi.
It's like they know that I'm talking to Cara, so that means we can bring the
They,
paint out.
yeah, I love paint.
Afterwards.
Oh my God. You know what I've discovered? I love working outside. Who knew? Physical work, like hard labor. Like, I mean, I love it. I love being outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm reevaluating like everything. I want to take my clients and my friends with me doing things that are, you know, outside,
Yeah.
outside in like nature and spiritual places. In like, I've decided that that's it. I think I need to switch it up.
Now
I've
you
been
understand where I've been coming from.
Yes, I totally sense that like I have a feeling that it's going to be a success, but at the end of the day, it's going to be, well, this whole thing happening in the world is making it happen for me.
Mm.
Like, I have to change it up. I have no choice.
Yeah.
That's how the universe works. Like, no choice, right? You have to
Well,
do it.
I've been debating that lately, because you know what I've been thinking about this morning is this whole mirror theory, which a lot of spirituality is based on, which is that that old concept of like, if there's something that you don't like in somebody else, then it's just you reflecting that part of yourself onto somebody else, like you're projecting it onto them because you don't like it. And so this whole spiritual concept of like, if something bad happens in your life, it's your fault because you've manifested that in some way, right? And this is
Karma, right?
karma. Yeah, it's just like the opposite side of the secret model of like, manifest positive things and positive things will come in your life, and if
Yeah,
you don't, then it's because you suck. And I've
yeah.
really been sitting with that the last couple months through this whole process, to reflect on like, is that actually true? Is every bad thing that happens to me my fault? Like, could there be scenarios where maybe it's just, for example, a dark energy that is coming in that's trying to influence me or make a
Yeah.
challenge? Um, And I think it's also like when we go down deeper into it and you look at people who are very open and empaths and psychics and so forth, who really take this to heart. If you really, really take this to heart, right, then it tears apart your self-esteem over time.
It does, but you know, for me, it's. I just had to write. I got a pen and paper because I find that that organizes my thoughts. I have to like if I'm feeling like I need to remember something. Okay, so like I think it's about your perception of the situation if it's bad or not.
Yeah.
I think that it is up to the observer, which is us, and it to see it for a lesson or for a shitty bullshit situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, you know, it really is up to you on
Mm-hmm.
how you perceive it. And I am a negative Nancy. So it takes a lot of practice for me to try to see the glass, you know, half full instead of empty, you know,
Yeah.
or full or whatever, right? Like I'm still backwards with it. So it takes time. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think our perception is key, but I also do believe that we can manifest in our lives. We have to be mindful of our thoughts. Mind
Yeah.
you, we're human beings. All of us are going to have really crazy thoughts. And in my experience, I've noticed that like my thoughts don't manifest as quickly if they're bad. So that's how it goes. Oh, I see a child.
Yeah. Life doesn't
My
always have to be on this
my
side.
dogs are just all chilling right now. Like they're just all relaxed. But as soon as something comes outside, like a squirrel, oh my
Yeah.
God. Like there are so many animals. Like I don't know. Mother Nature is so happy right now, which is not a compliment to us.
No. Um, I mean, just getting back to what you were
Yeah,
saying, though, like I do
perception.
agree that yeah, we have control of our perception and we have control of how we respond to whatever comes up in our life. And there's ways that we can use that to our advantage for sure.
Right.
However, sometimes I think there's times where, situations might be happening and we sit back and we go, oh my God, what did I do? Is this my karma? Am I a bad person? Am I being punished for something? I think sometimes there's times to be like, no, this is a crappy situation and a bad card that I've been dealt. And maybe it doesn't have anything to do at all with who I am as a person or what um, my karma is. It's just a crappy thing that happened that I need to
It's
address. And
inevitable.
yeah.
That's the word I got. It's inevitable because guess what? We're all humans. We all have karma. So guess what? Good things and bad things are going to happen, especially on this planet. That's the way it works.
Especially in 2020.
Oh my God. This is like opening it up and showing us like, hello. I mean, it's I actually feel like I'm navigating it okay, but
Yeah.
like then there's times where I feel like I'm losing it a bit because I'm here all the time, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm comforted by the birds outside. There's so many birds and there's
Yeah.
bird shit everywhere. Like, welcome to Muskoka. You might get pooed on,
Yeah.
right?
And bit by mosquitoes.
And bit by mosquitoes and black flies. But yeah, so perception and inevitable. It's inevitable for us to have karma, even if we don't remember from
Yeah.
past lives, planets, whatever. You know, everything I say is always speculation. I don't know these things for sure. I just kind of like, I love using my imagination.
Yeah. Me
Speaking of
too.
that, I've been seeing faces in the trees again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that doesn't change. It's every day. But they're like smiling at me. Usually they're miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they just are kind of like,
Well, do you think, here's the question for you. Do you think they're happier or do you think you're happier?
I think they're again a mirror, an image of me, right? So
Yeah.
whatever your perception is what it is. Like if you
Yeah.
think something, somebody thinks that somebody's beautiful, and another person is like, oh, you know, like, but everybody has their own taste. Everybody, I believe, has that person for them or that, you know, animal for them, like Ryder. He
Yeah.
pees everywhere. Like he has no respect at all, but
Mm-hmm.
he is a sucky baby and I love him. And, you know, like that's what I mean. He's meant for me. His soul, his spirit is meant for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a very sucky mood today. Have you noticed? And I'm wearing pink because I feel lovey.
I know. You're like a giant rose quartz crystal over
It's
there.
true. I feel like honestly, no filters, man. This is like great. I must be a makeup artist. I'm like, damn. No,
I get your camera.
I don't even, this is my computer camera.
It looks good.
Yeah. I usually have something covering it because I've got trust issues.
Hmm.
Like I'm so important that people would want to spy on me, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a wise thing. Have you seen the documentary about, Snowden that came out a couple of years ago?
Oh
They don't listen
God.
to us because it's over.
You know what? I need to start investigating stuff more, like you
Yeah.
and some of my other friends, not just looking at the
So
news.
so here's so this week we had our prime minister go to the protests and get down on one knee. How did you feel about that? What was your reaction to that?
I just found out this morning.
Good. That's the way to live your life.
I'm like too busy figuring out what the squirrel is going to do to my dog next outside. Um,
That's freedom right there.
you know what? I think that it was his motive. It depends on his motive behind it.
Hmm.
Was it a thing to, get the next vote? Was it, or was it meaningful? Like, I'm really sorry this happened. Like,
Hmm.
this is me showing my respect to you. Not like putting you like as a god, because I
Hmm.
know that that's like gonna probably be the next conspiracy theory. I created that. And I'm just kidding. I did not create that. But like he just, I think, was like he's like every other probably most white people in Canada right now, like going, I don't even know what to do. So I'm sorry. Like that's what I get from it.
Hmm.
I don't think that he is a bad guy. Okay, Trudeau. I think that he has a full plate. And I think like, holy crap, like a pandemic. Are you friggin' kidding me? That would be one of those like, really? Is that karma? What the F did I do to be Prime Minister of Canada during a pandemic? So
Well,
there you go.
that's the question. What did he do?
Exactly. What did he do?
I
So
mean, I think
what's your thoughts? Like I honestly got I think that my issue is that I see the good in everything.
yeah.
I am one of those spirit like people. Whereas my husband, he is like I think he's a better person than me. Like to be honest with you, he's a really amazing soul. But he can see the both.
Hmm.
He's very much like you. Like he could see
Hmm.
through your bullshit.
Yeah.
Now the
Someone
dogs
has
are going
something to
crazy.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on a
Ryder.
soul level, there probably is some goodness in there. But I like to think that about everybody.
No. Sorry,
But I
hold on
think,
1 sec. Can you mute me for 1 sec? I'm gonna tell these guys to like I'm gonna scream shut up, so you don't want to hear that.
okay, go ahead. Okay, you're unmuted again.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think there's probably some goodness there in him, because I like to believe that about everybody. But I think
I know you do.
there's some stuff that we don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I had very early on with this. I don't know how it happened, but I kind of spontaneously remote viewed in to his little private space in the cottage. Um, and what I saw was that he's in trouble. Um, and so I don't know who's at fault, but there's some trouble there. Now the kneeling though, there's something that the energy of that does not feel good to me. Um, it doesn't feel like, the message around it is that we're kneeling, I think, in asking for forgiveness for what has been
That's what
wrong
they're
in the
trying to
past.
do, I think.
That's
Yeah.
the narrative around it, but that is not the energy that I feel around it at all. I'm losing your audio again. Um, and so there's, to me, it worries me a little bit because it feels like we're kneeling to somebody in power, right? We normally don't kneel unless we're giving our power away or we're honoring somebody, which it could be said that we're honoring Black Lives Matters or Black people, but, or George Floyd even, but that's not really clear in the actual ceremonies that are happening around it. And so I keep in my head, when I see the images and the videos, I keep asking, who are we kneeling to? Who are we kneeling to? Who are we kneeling to? So I
Yeah.
have some questions to see what comes out, I guess, with that. But that's just my opinion. I don't have anything to
I
really back it up, right?
oh, I can't get this camera sorted. Okay. All right. So it's just I look so nice today, like, so I want to show it off. Anyways, I think that, I did think when I first saw it that you would, like this morning, that you would bring it up. I just had this feeling. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, maybe their choice of how they did it is not right,
Mm-hmm.
but might be offensive or whatever. But that's the problem in the world right now. Like, I think it's like whatever the motive of every individual is, if it's either good or bad, I think innately, um, if somebody's doing it to be respectful, but they're being offensive anyways. I am so offensive. I always offend people, and it's never my intention. Never
Mm-hmm.
my intention. Sometimes blurting out like really inappropriate things. And I really don't know where that comes from. But, anyways,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm still accepted because my motive, everyone knows. Typically, people who know me know the motive behind
Yes.
it. Like,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not, right?
I don't
So
think what he did, I don't really find it offensive, but I mean, I'm not Black, but I don't find it offensive what he did. I'm more concerned about whether it is some kind of unknown signal that we don't understand, right? Because think about it, if all of our world leaders are, I mean, they knew about coronavirus months before they told us. They knew about all of this before we found out. So I think my concern is, what exactly does the act of kneeling symbolize to them? Are we actually symbolizing this race issue, or is it some kind of signal for something else?
hmm.
And it might not be. I mean, that could just be a
Yeah, could
conspiracy
be.
theory, right? But
No, but
there's
it could be.
different messages.
There's always that possibility. I mean, I was raised as a Catholic, so whenever I kneeled, it was never before a person. It was before God. And
Yeah,
the, like when I would be doing I think it's the act of contrition. I can't remember anymore.
yeah.
But and like to kneel in front of somebody, also royalty. I've had to kneel in front of royalty. I'll be honest with you, that was difficult. I have a huge
Mm-hmm.
ego. So that's another thing too. It's also a sign of humility. That's kind of like what I can.
Is it
I'm
humility
hoping
though,
that they're.
or is
I'm
it
hoping.
hesitation?
I'm hoping that they're. I mean, it could be either or, but what just came to me is humility. Like it's like the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
There's symbols from way back that are all like the swastika. I think is a symbol of evil in my perception. But then in another culture, it might
Yeah,
be a different symbol. So maybe what they're trying to
yeah,
present is an act of humility, and I'm sorry, like fuck, we have really treated you people like shit. And not even
mm-hmm.
that, like like that's what I'm hoping for, like because I do see the good
Mm-hmm.
and I want to see that that maybe it is,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's the word that I'm trying to look for, was humility. Maybe hopefully that's his motive.
Well, I that would be, I mean, that would be awesome if that is what the intention is behind it, the true intention behind it. But then I think if that's the case, then we need to see a kneeling ceremony towards pretty much every race across the planet.
Yes, and
Don't you
also
think?
sexual abuse and women
Yeah.
survivors, and the fact that oh my god, that's another topic. Oh my god, I did see that in the news. I, but I don't
What's that?
understand. I haven't even read it because it's so upsetting. Like to find out that law that says like if you're drunk, it's a
Oh yeah.
defense. And I'm thinking, okay, so what
Yes.
about a drunk driver? What about a drunk
Well,
driver? Like,
I think there's different rules based on whether you're in a vehicle or not, like depending on the crime. You know, it's funny because I did see a lot of people speaking out about that. And when I first read that you know, and just if people haven't read it, there's basically it was released, or it wasn't released this week because it's been there for a while, I understand it correctly. But that if someone has committed sexual abuse or raped somebody while they were intoxicated, that the intoxication could be used. It doesn't have to be used, but it could be used basically as like an excuse to not be
yeah.
proven guilty. But you know what immediately came to my mind when I read that though was, oh, that makes sense, because if somebody gave me the date rape drug, but not that, but gave me a drug that intoxicated me, so I didn't know what I was doing, and then put me in a situation to rape somebody, there is the potential that people could be put in situations where they are intoxicated and put in a situation where they hurt somebody else, but they're completely unaware of it when they've been victimized to get, so you have two victims as opposed to one victim. That was the first thing that went through my mind.
That is so like, but you know what? And I know what you're saying. Like, I mean, I am not going to lie. Like, I mean, anyways, I have a lot of experience in that department.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a very, very fine line. If
Mm-hmm.
you are going to charge, I'm sorry, I'm using this, a drunk driver, because
Mm-hmm.
they're completely impaired and they don't remember either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then, but if they're drunk, then it doesn't matter. Like it, you know, is it because the thing is that you can't just do one without the other. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. That's a violent crime.
Yeah.
Rape and assault, and as a victim of it my entire life is
Mm-hmm.
not, it's a violent offend, an assault, a huge assault. Same with hitting somebody with a car.
Yeah.
So they're saying that all of a sudden now,
Mm-hmm.
it's an excuse if somebody gets raped. But what about an excuse if they crash into somebody while they're drunk driving?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a
It is
slippery
such
slope.
bullshit. It's bullshit. But
I
you know
think the
what?
question is like, I don't have I haven't looked at the actual legal
Me neither. I don't know either.
verbiage
So,
on it, so I'm hesitant to comment on it, having just read the headline on the article and the article itself. But um, I mean, I definitely don't agree with it being used as an excuse. We're hitting some good topics. I definitely don't agree with it
yeah.
being used as an excuse for any kind of crime, especially a crime against another person. Um,
No. If you're drunk and you did it, whether I'm sorry, but you got to pay for it. You harmed somebody. It was an
yeah.
irresponsible thing you did. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody's involved, gets killed, hurt, whatever, you need to get the full extent. That's the bottom line. It's
Yeah.
unacceptable. But like to say that it's acceptable only if it's rape,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the? I was literally thinking like, I hope this isn't real. Like even
Well,
my husband was shaking his head. He's like, if a woman says no and I'm drunk, I'm not going to have sex with her.
yeah.
If
Well,
anything,
that's
if the
exactly
woman is
right.
drunk, I'm not going to have sex with her because I don't want to get arrested. Like that's the first thing you would think of,
Yeah. And
right?
that's where like there's, I think we need to understand what is that line that's drawn in the law, and is there a line drawn there? Because if there isn't, then it's
No.
a huge concern. But then there's also all these other laws we're discovering through this process too, of like um I'm going to get this wrong, but there was some kind of legislation where the age of consent, and I believe it was for anal sex, but don't quote me on that, has been lowered to like 14 or something like that, with this administration that we have in our government right now that
Are
is
you
this.
serious?
Yes, I'm
I
serious
was
on that
playing
point.
Barbies at 14.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge concern for me.
It should.
And then they're also like with the recommendations on sex education globally. This isn't even just in Canada, this is just the recommendations globally, is that they want to start teaching like kindergartners about masturbation and different types of sexual acts. And I'm like, why do, like, I understand the need to understand consent,
Yes.
which is not in the recommendations for that age, but I think consent should be taught as soon as
Yes.
your child can understand anything.
I don't think
um,
half the guys in the world and the women in the world, and nobody really knows what consent is. And that's
oh,
why it is important. You're right.
yeah, I think consent should be the very first thing. Like, once you
Yeah.
understand your body. But I mean, I've been talking, my kids are only 3 and 4, and we've been talking about that for years now, about
Yeah.
how if you don't like someone in your space, or you don't like someone touching you, you have the right
Yeah.
to say no, and you have the right to ensure that they don't do anything. And you need to tell
Because
somebody,
Annie
and it's okay
Cara
to
will
say.
literally beat your ass.
Yeah. And then you have,
Not the kid, the person who's trying to abuse her.
yeah.
I would literally, oh, anyways.
And then you also have, like, they released a lot of people from the prisons because of concerns about COVID spreading through the prison system. And then we also discovered last night that the MTO, I think, Ministry of Transportation, has told their officers not to pull over vehicles that they might have concerns about, that are like, oh, I'm going to lose the word here, tow truck drivers, because of concerns over acts of violence in that industry. And that was in February. And so now there's this big thing coming out where they're saying, oh no, we didn't actually say that, but there's like, people have documentation to show that they've been told not to follow this. So the question is, like, we have this legal system where the rules don't seem to be the same across the board.
No, they're
Like, some,
not the same. No.
yes, and we're not even abiding by half of them. And now we're creating these new laws where if you talk to your neighbor, you can be fined.
I know. I
Like, what kind
can't
of world
believe
are we
it.
living in? It doesn't make any sense.
I know. I know. I'm kind of flabbergasted myself. Like I kind of like even waking up this morning, I I have a difficult time. Um I see all the articles, but I don't want to read them. Like I'm not reading them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know why. It's because I'm the kind of I want to avoid it. I don't want to see it
Yeah.
anymore. I don't want to see people, the violence and the friggin' tow truck drivers and the fucking, it's just it's so difficult to put all of those articles together. And like, I think right now is the, I think everyone, in my opinion, anybody that's around me, and I think that the best way, anyways, for me, what I've been doing is just focusing on trying to do one thing for one person at least a day,
Mm-hmm.
because I will go into self pity. And that's what I was talking about last night. Like, I will go into self pity in the sense where it's like, you know what? Holy crap. Like, I can't even like go out and give my friend Jen a hug because I might, like, my germs might kill her or whatever. Right. Or I can't do this. I can't do that. Instead, I've been thinking, okay, what can I do? I'm going to go and clean because I like cleaning and I like being outside. And or I'm going to actually, reach out to a friend. I have a girl right now that I am affiliated with, and she is has a baby boy now. He has survived. I think in the first little show I talked about it, and he is friggin' adorable. I can't wait to hug him. But
Mm-hmm.
his brain surgery was perfect. It was the
Mm-hmm.
best one that they've had, they said. So things like that just kind of like push me forward. You know what?
Yeah.
This is just a moment right now in our lives where we're forced to look at a few things. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
choosing to be in a pandemic and feel grateful because I can totally see around me what to be grateful
Mm-hmm.
for right here. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I want to be a part of whatever this is that I can do to help with changing the world. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's helping, alcoholics and addicts. and
Mm-hmm.
people that, that's just what it is for me. And then if anybody else could, like, if anybody who is like a real badass warrior who's a little bit more brave than me can go protest, do it, do whatever it is that is the right thing for you. And for,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the right thing for me. I wish I could change the whole world. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could wave a magic wand. I actually envisioned yesterday during my meditation, I envisioned having my arms and my wings around the planet, just giving it a big hug and
Yeah.
just saying, like, we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I can tell you that anything that's watching our planet right now is there anything that's on the outside, they might see all the chaos, but they're seeing, there's more of the good. Trust me. There's more
Mm-hmm.
good people on this planet with good motives than there
Mm-hmm.
are bad.
I agree
So
with you.
let's just go and hug those ones that are bad so that
Mm-hmm.
they all of a sudden can have good motives and good feelings, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. It's injury. It's like one of my friends told me, said, like, the wounded animal
Mm-hmm.
is the most dangerous,
Yeah.
right? Well, what about if we just like, oh, it might not have to be a hug now, but maybe this is the pandemic. This is another one of my ideas. Maybe the pandemic is making us learn how to use our telepathic abilities and
I agree.
our energy and our voices and, things like that. Maybe that's what's happening. It's like change the perspective, because if we can vibrate higher, that doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean from a spiritual
Mm-hmm.
um no little bombers that keep writing weird shit on our page. So anyways, don't get any freaking ideas. So, like, if we could just all collectively realize that we are each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I maybe I sound like a visionary, but I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I think that's where we're already seeing that, right? I mean, I'm
Yep.
seeing that when I'm meditating too, is that there's lots of people around.
So
Um,
many.
so many,
Woo!
and there's so many awakening every day. And it's funny because when people awaken, and when we say awaken, it's like becoming aware of the truth of what's really going on. Um,
Yep.
is that I'm seeing the first stage of awakening in a lot of cases is anger. And so people are getting really, really angry. And then the people who have already gone through that stage are frustrated with the people who are angry. But once you get far enough along, you can see that that's a good thing. The anger is a good thing because it's the first step of the process.
They're
And
seeing the
once,
truth.
yeah, and you're gonna, I mean, the
Oh,
truth is ugly. It's very
it is
ugly and it's
bullshit.
painful, and you're gonna be angry and you're gonna cry and you're gonna go through all these different stages of grief to realize
Oh,
that, in a lot of ways we've all been mistreated, right? So regardless of the
all of
skin,
us.
all of us have been mistreated, all of us have been harmed. And to know that you went through that and know that people that you loved went through that and knowing that other innocent people went through that is painful.
Mm-hmm.
But once we get through that, then we can start to see as well that the people who are causing the harm, like you said, are wounded because they've been harmed. And so while we may not condone their actions, we can still
Oh,
find that little bit of goodness in their soul and say, yes, they deserve to be cared for as well. Maybe what they think their right is to sexually abuse somebody or to hurt somebody, we don't condone that. And they don't have a right to
no,
do that. But they do have a
no.
right to be a human being. And they still have a right to be loved, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Because there's things that upset me, especially when we get into abuse and pedophilia and things like that. That truly upsets me. But it's funny because when those thoughts come through my mind, I'll see this like corrective thought that comes down from my higher self where I'm like, they don't deserve any rights. And then my higher self will come in and will say, no, they don't have any rights to their sexual needs with regards to children, but I still believe they have rights as a human being. And there's a lot of people who will disagree on that with me. But I think we need to look at what's causing that
Yeah.
in them, what's causing that behavior, what's causing that belief system. And I don't agree with that. But I also know that a lot of them have been trained, programmed, abused
Yeah.
into those lines.
Yeah.
And so there was nobody that stood up for them, that
Nobody stood
cared
up
for
for
them,
them.
right?
No. And then that's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about life is that you have a choice. So you can choose to allow the abuse, to allow, hi,
Okay.
how's it going, pretty girl? Yeah, she's gone. Oh, she disappears. Um, oh, boo. So, anyways, I can't remember what I was saying because your beautiful little girl just like poked her head out at me.
I know.
Um, I
We were
think that,
talking about how the abuse
oh,
stems
yeah, yeah,
from.
yeah. So, like as far as abuse goes, I am, as we know, an abuse survivor of all sorts. Like I've been drugged, I've had it all happen. Okay. And I can say that today, after a lot of work, that I absolutely have forgiven and moved on. I don't think about it. I don't have nightmares. I do probably, in a physical way, manifest things like endometriosis and anxiety and other issues. But at the end of the day, the only thing that saved me was forgiving them and understanding my own problems. The fact that I'm an asshole too. I'm not a child molester and I'm not a murderer, but I did drive drunk. And that's unacceptable. So I had to, make a decision, like am I going to continue this pattern in my family, continue this pattern in my life, or am I going to change? And I've seen people who are total, I was a disaster, right? Very, very a disaster. And I am like somewhat normal now, which is amazing. And I've also seen people who are like literally who were in the jail system their whole lives and they are now helping others and they've been sober for like 25 years. So, like I've seen miracles happen. So I know that this energy between all of us is there. I can see
Mhm.
it too because I'm a medium. Like the way I don't usually put a label on it, but I can see it. But
Yeah.
um, so I guess you can say that, as far as the sexual assault stuff goes, like with my family, and my babysitters and whatever, my entire life, I just remember violence, whether it be physical, sexual, emotional. And, there were good days. Like I choose to, again, it's about perspective. There were
Mhm.
really great days. I had a lot of fun with my sister and the kids at school, and I was a talker. I'd get up on stage and talk. No fucking shit, right? Like, so it was great, but I had those things. And I think that it taught me as a child, it prepared me. It prepared me for everything that's leading up to now. My
Mhm.
I did not have compassion and love for others in the beginning because of my drinking. I was numbed out. But
Mhm.
now it's like, holy crap. Like now I can love and appreciate people. So here's where I'm going with it, right? It's always about me, but I'm going to like switch it up here because it's not about me. The ultimate thing that I'm getting at is that whether it be alcoholism, pedophilia, I hate to say it too, because I was a victim of pedophilia. Um, like any of these fucked up things, smoking. I don't care what it is. Some are worse, some are not as bad, depending on where you live in the world.
Mhm.
um, you know what? You can fix it. You don't have to be that way. I am naturally an asshole. I really am. Like, and it's not to be putting myself down. That's just like, I know that. Like, I know that I could just sit at home and have no friends and I'd be miserable, but I'd be, I'm that kind of a person.
Mhm.
But, once I've chose to, forgive, let go and and the only way you can do it is looking at yourself. Okay, so were you always perfect? I think Jesus said, like, or somebody said, cast the first stone. Like,
Mhm.
everybody has issues, and, some people are pedophiles, some people are murderers, some people are stupid ass drunk drivers, some people are, none of those things, but they yell at their kids, like, you little fucking shit. I don't know. Like, what did you do? Like, I don't know. I'm emotional, whatever it is. Racism. Oh, The one that's the hot topic right now, racism. Like, we have a choice. Look at where we are going wrong. Are we judging the people of other colors? Are we judging, what do we pick the white guy over the black guy? Not in within us, right? Then maybe if we all did that, what a great place that would be. I would love to see the world change, but I can only do what I can do now. And I've seen one person's world change, and then another person's world change. And then when all of these worlds, our hairstyle is even the same today. That's like incredible. We have great taste. Anyways, I'm ranting. I just think that, I know maybe it's a pipe dream, but like if anybody gets this message or our messages from every week, it really is like, I'm not perfect. I said Canada didn't have a racism problem. Like, what a jackass. Like, give me a break, right? Like, I'm such a jackass. Meanwhile, the majority of my friends here in Aurelia are native background, and they would just shake their head at me and just go, what the hell's wrong with you? But you know what? And look, I just did another white thing too. Like, oh, my friends are native, or all my friends are black. I'm just trying to learn and do better. And I need to learn what I'm doing that is racist, that is rude, that is disrespectful, fearful, dishonest, self seeking. I need to figure that out about myself. And then I can change it. And then, oh my God, everyone else around you starts to change.
I agree that there's value in exploring our shadows, as they say, or looking at where our thoughts might not be aligned to our higher self. But I sometimes worry about, there's so much focus on where am I a bad person? Where am I making mistakes? Where am I not seeing things as well as I need to see things? That it causes us to lose sight of like the power that we do have and the beauty that we do have. And,
Balance.
exactly.
You have to have balance.
I don't know that us going around and whether we're blaming ourselves or we're blaming other people for being racist, I don't know that that's going to eradicate racism. It's going to cause a lot of defense, and
I think
maybe
if we
even
all
more.
change, if we all learn what the hell we're doing that's so racist and then knock it off, then yeah, that'll change everything. It'll change everything. We all have to knock it off. The reason why I'm saying it is we are basically all of us, and I'm using white people because I'm white. Say for example, with my family, there's certain things that I learned, just like alcoholism, addiction, abuse, all those things kind of carry, right? In order for me to get better, I need to look at myself and figure out what it is that I learned from all those situations. And if it is a racist thing or an anger thing, or I need to deal with it. And that's kind of like what my point is if we all deal like, and it doesn't mean focus every day. Like if I was to get up every single day and think about all the bullshit that I do, oh my God. To be honest with you, I have such a huge ego. I don't think I do anything wrong. I am
I'm
perfect.
Go to you. I'm just whatever I do right.
So what I always say is, you know what? This is normal. It's okay to have these problems. We're humans. It's normal to be selfish. It's normal to be, judgmental. All those things. We're all human. It's just getting better, is learning about ourselves to get better, which is what I want to do I would love to have something like that in my retreats for people. Not just, not the 12 steps, whatever, but, and things that are gonna, change individual people. And then it just kind of expands. Look at these religions, right? Like, why don't we have religions get really, really big because they really want to they want to be connected. They want to have a common, belief and fellowship and relationship, right? But really all it is it's within us. We just need to have that connection with our higher power. And then all of a sudden people are drawn to you. You glow differently when you're a loving person. You attract things. You're also going to attract negative bullshit. but it's your choice to focus it in on it and say, oh, that's bullshit. Or, you know what? I'm a travel agent, my business, I don't know. I might be rich in a few months. I might be destitute in a few months. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But you know what? I trust that I'm going to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because I've gone through so much stuff that I should be dead, or of a broken heart even.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are the same. It's not just me that has problems. Every one of us has freaking problems.
Yeah.
So, this is, I think a pandemic is like a dark night of is it dark night of the soul? Yeah. The pandemic is like totally an eye-opening thing. It's
So now,
negative, but I don't know, changing it to, looking at it from a perspective of, yeah, like people are dying, but they're not dead. That's my belief. I'm sorry. People can think what they want, but
well, there's not even that many people. Like initially, there was a lot of reports of death, but that's all
yeah.
being debated now. Like even this week, WHO has said
Ugh.
that it's very unlikely that COVID spreads if you're asymptomatic, which was a big component of.
I read that this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few choice words when I read that one, which I won't share because there's kids in the background. But
Oh my
um,
gosh.
I think that was the whole premise of shutting down the economy. And like you said, I think there was value in us shutting down the economy the way we did for a spiritual human perspective in
And the
some
planet. And the planet.
regards. However,
The
it
planet's
has
like, oh,
also caused a lot of potentially unnecessary financial hardship for people who were
a
already
Yeah.
experiencing so much financial hardship that the question becomes, can they survive this, right? Like there's financial hardship in the sense of like, oh, I can't go get a massage, or the first world problems of financial hardship. But then there's financial hardship of, I'm going to lose my home and I can't buy food for my family,
Yeah.
which is completely different level of hardship that I don't think is being seen or appreciated enough by the people who aren't in those circles. And that, I think that's a big part of my concern, is that what happens to those families? What happens to those people?
I
Right?
know. I feel like, honestly, I feel like in that department, I don't do enough. Because I really, because I have no idea. Like I've had to use the Salvation Army before. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? I had no money, no hydro. I needed food. I like food. So I
Yeah.
went. And I think anybody that thinks, I'm a successful person, I consider myself, with a nice house and everything else. And I can tell you that I had nothing. Go to the Salvation Army. It doesn't matter. Just swallow your pride. Go and get food. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just what I did. And you know what? That's what it's there for. It's the community helping out, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if there's anything like that where we are specifically, but we could do some sort of food drive, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's a group in Gravenhurst against poverty, and I believe that they help out families or individuals as well. There are groups in our community. I know quite a few in Gravenhurst. There's quite a lot of caring people in Gravenhurst that have an eye on that, and that's partially the concern, right? With the economy shut down, is that where we live, it's so seasonal. Like our economy is so dependent on these next couple months, and so if we lose that season, it's not about greed. People think it's about greed, but it's really not about greed. It's
It's not.
about the
It's just about,
survival of our community,
yeah, I
and
know.
yes, we live in a really interesting place because, we've had a lot of talk about racism, and what we haven't yet seen come forward is classism, right? And the divide between the classes. And when you look at these, particularly Muskoka, you have a huge divide in the classes,
Yes.
right? Huge divide. And we've seen that playing out in a really interesting way, I think, with the whole pandemic, because like right now, for instance, a lot of the upper class people will say have a full-time residence in Toronto, which is still locked down. It's still in phase 1 of the reopening, where Muskoka is moving to phase 2 this Friday. Yeah. And a lot of those individuals will be coming from that place to this place, right? Where a lot of the full-time residents, not all, but I would say there's a larger percentage of full-time residents in Muskoka who probably wouldn't put themselves classified as an upper class in terms of their financial wealth. And that's just based on finances, not other levels of abundance, because I think full-time residents of Muskoka appreciate everything else that brings us abundance outside of the finances. And so
we love the cottagers, because at the end of the day, you know, that's where we love each other.
But I think there's a love-hate relationship. I think we're dependent on the economy coming from cottagers, right? Because there's an inflow of money, there's an inflow of jobs. But I think at the same time, there is also a subconscious resentment around that. And I think that's why we see these back and forth debates around it. And we're seeing a lot of fear coming up in people of like, we know we need people to come to our community to make sure that we have jobs and our economy survives, but yet we're fearful of them coming in. And while there is some element for some people of fear of transference of the germs and so forth, but I think it's also causing this next level of purging of these emotions, right? Of that there is a real divide. And the way we experience this area, this community, is very different depending on the class that you might be in at a given time, right? I mean, most of the locals are not living in multi-million-dollar mansions with speedboats and, you know, and getting their Starbucks and all of those items. And not to say that everybody who is wealthy is doing that either. But there is,
you know, some of my friends that do that. You just said
there are.
Yeah.
It can go in either.
I have instant jailhouse coffee.
Yeah, right. That's what we're going to be moving to as well. But I think, I mean, I've been frustrated in watching some of the narrative that has been happening around this whole debate, because I feel like people are missing the point. We're arguing over the pandemic and the movement of people with the pandemic, but I think the root of the issue is this divide in the classes and how the rules seem to be different based on how much money you have and where you fit in that class. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this starting to come up, because I'm already seeing it in the US. In some of the conversations around racism, there's a lot of, you know, white people, for example, stepping up saying that I've been living in poverty my whole life and it had nothing to do with my skin color. It's just, you know, it was the circumstances that I was born into. And then, you know, the challenges that I've had to try and overcome that moving forward. And that, I mean, that definitely exists in Canada. It surely exists in Canada, but I think our region in particular is an area where it can really be seen. Like you can really see the polarity.
You can.
Because the locals, I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful up here all year round, but it's so beautiful in the summertime, right? Like that's when everybody wants to come, because you have
everybody wants to come. Yeah.
But the locals, a lot of locals, not all, but a lot of locals spend their summer working nonstop. Like I know a lot of families and individuals up here who literally will work every day. And given that we've had a delay to the start of our season, people are going to be working even harder if they can to try to make up for what they didn't earn earlier in the season, and fear that we might have a second wave and we'll shut down again. And so I think there is a level of resentment that can build up with that, in terms of, you know, these individuals are sacrificing. They live in this beautiful place, but they don't get to enjoy it because they have to spend their time serving others in order to survive and live and make it through the winter.
Yep.
You know, and that's not the case for everyone. That's definitely dependent on where, you know, what industry you work in. So it's
I'm
not
lucky.
For everyone. But it is something that I think there's a lot of questions around that, you know, like look at Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Does that guy really need any more money? Does he
No,
need
he
any more?
doesn't.
You know, like I think it should be, I saw someone had posted online, like once you hit like, I don't know, whatever the ideal is, like $10 million, you can put whatever amount you want. Once you hit
Yeah.
$10 million, you don't get any more money. The rest of that money has to go be given to the community, and you get like a
I
trophy or
think
something that's
so.
like, hey, you're a rich person. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or for maybe one of the like maybe like a statue with like big balls
Yeah.
on it.
Well, I don't want balls on my statue, but
Here you go. You're rich. Here, you get the you
you
got
know,
you grew balls. Honestly, see, there's another woman against women. See, what about lady balls? We have lady balls. Okay, anyways, no perverts, no messages on our show.
yeah.
Okay, I honestly have to say that like I agree with everything that you're saying. There's so many people in the community right now. Like I know I was one of those in the community. I didn't even have water. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there it does
Mm-hmm.
exist. You know, poverty
Mm-hmm.
exists in this community for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not, and a lot of times, half the times people don't even know how to sign up for this, you know, CERB or like anything else, or they don't know that they qualify for something because quite frankly, I mean, they're just trying to live, survive, trying to just, they don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't want have time to go online and do this and that and Service Canada and this and that. Like, really, they don't.
Yeah.
They just want to get like, you know, scrounge up the change in their house to get like, you know, gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was what we had to do. So,
Yes.
you know, I just that anybody that's in that situation, whether your house looks great and you look like it's, or you live in like in the ghetto, doesn't matter. Like just go get
Mm-hmm.
the internet is unstable. I thought it said Cara is unstable.
It's probably because I was talking about Jeff.
Ah! So
I said
yeah.
a name.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I try not
I
to, but
I think you know, like you said, this dark night of the soul that humanity is in, it is important for these issues to come up so that we can see them and we can address them and we can make changes. But now now that our province has announced that we can go up to 10 people if you're in the phase 2 regions, and businesses are starting to reopen, do you think, you know, people will stay in this state of reflection and higher good that we've kind of moved to, or do you think that there's a risk of us
oh
all going
no.
back to our busy lives and our routines and forgetting about everybody else?
Oh God, every day. It's practice every day, right? Like so I have a feeling that people will be like, oh yeah, work, blah, blah. It'll be all back to like the same. I
Yeah.
personally think that if we're not careful, I think we're going to get a second wave.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just like chilling. I'm kind of like in the eye of the storm is the safest place to rest kind of idea.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to go out and like start, you know, having dinner parties and shit. Like, but at the end of the day, you know, like I think that I think that this is I think that people are more aware now. And you know what? They're really aware because I mean they've had time to be on Facebook at home and like go online and do their own research and but getting back to normal, we forget really fast. That's what we forget, right? And I think as a species in general, we just kind of like choose to go with what's comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
what know, might be, this will get us a paycheck. This will get, if we could all just focus in on looking at those things that's wrong with us, fixing it, looking at whether or not we're racist, looking at and then and that's what I've been doing for the past like 12 years, trying anyways, and forgetting that's totally normal. That's us, that's humans. But you'll know throughout your day, or laugh at a joke because you're too afraid to tell the person. That's disgusting. And if you send me inappropriate things or do that, I'm not going to put up with it. Well, we have a responsibility to know. Like I am every single day I work with like that. And that is my way of giving back to the world, to put my focus in that and, in my business and my family relationships. So that's basically it. Choose one thing that you love to do, whether it even be helping animals. It's just changing the energy in the world is going to change everything. If there's no change, there's no change. If you don't know what you're doing wrong, how do you know what to fix? So
I'm hoping I'm hoping we come out of this seeing more compassion for each other. I think that's my biggest wish out of everything, regardless of specific issues, but I'm hoping to see more compassion. So whether it's a race issue or not, or it's a class issue or not, or it's just something like you're just with another human being, having compassion that everybody's experience over the last few months has been completely different. And I think for me, being a small business owner and being in a position now where, some of my clients knew that I had permission to reopen before I did. And so I was getting calls and they're like, well, aren't you reopened? And I was like, well, no, the government still has us shut down. And they're like, well, they changed that. And it's like, all of a sudden you have to flip a switch. And yet, I'm still in a space of processing everything that's happened and the grief
trauma
that's gone along with that.
It's trauma.
It is trauma, and having to reopen in a completely different way and meet all these guidelines that are not clearly mapped out, and yet still provide the same level of customer service, even though you can't provide the same service. And knowing that there's other businesses, particularly small businesses, who don't have the legal teams and the resources to sit down and really interpret everything and brainstorm ideas, that, even the idea of reopening, there's still this, there's an energy behind it that doesn't feel like it did when you were running your own business, because it feels like, for me, it feels like
stress.
like someone stress, but someone has come in and basically shown us how vulnerable you are, right, as a business, but also as an individual or a family. And that ultimately, like, that there's this perceived, I'm not going to say for a second that it's real, I'm going to say it's perceived level of control, right? I don't believe it's real. However, there's so many people that do believe that's real. So having to navigate this spiritual path of going, I just learned all of this. I just opened up this huge dark night of the soul. I walked through all these shadows. I kept hearing that phrase as I walked through the shadow of the valley of death.
I fear no evil.
I fear no evil, right? But walking through that and finding, your sovereignty in that of, I am an individual and I do have all these rights, and there's all of these illusions that are placed on us, and trying to really walk that, higher self, soul level path, but yet at the same time walking alongside individuals who aren't quite there yet, because maybe they had a different experience in the pandemic, or maybe they have a different perception of the reality, and trying to serve them while doing your own path, while still processing all this trauma that happened, places you in a very vulnerable state. And you could say it's stress, because absolutely it's a stress level, but I would say there's a very strong emotional current behind it. And so I think about, the ice cream parlors and the restaurants and the retail stores that are all opening to this, but there's, this expectation that they're going to come back and they're going to be exactly who they were before they shut down, and they're going to be normal, and they're going to be upbeat, and they're going going to be able to fully serve the emotional, not just the physical, but the emotional needs of their clients, because that has always been there and we've never talked about it. When a lot of these business owners probably still need the hugs and the emotional support themselves because they didn't receive it during the downtime. Now, there will be exceptions to that. There will be some people who will thrive, and then there's going to be some people who are in the middle, and there'll be some who are really struggle with it. But for me, when it comes down to that compassion, I know for me, I have a strong desire to be able to go and support other small businesses when I can, but to do it with, kindness and compassion and understanding that they've just come through something really difficult. And so I need to maybe have a little more patience. I maybe need to go in and be the person smiling rather than expecting all of that to be given to me. And recognize that they're ultimately a person at the end of the day. Yes, they provide a service. And yes, I'm paying for that service, and there's an exchange of money for that service. But to really remember that it's human beings who have just worked through something really difficult and are still working through that process, because there's, the financial ramifications are not ending on Friday for these businesses. A lot of these businesses it's gonna take them 1, 2, 3, 4 years to pay back, these government loans, to catch up on what they didn't earn, to get their employees back to a full-time basis that they were prior. And so I think it would be really heartwarming for me anyway, to see that on a broader scale, to be able to go out to, not just the grocery store, but the ice cream place and the restaurants and all those places, and see, not only the local people who really understand that, but all the cottagers, all the tourists, having that compassion for the waiters, for the retail workers, for the business owners themselves, and remembering that, keeping
Show
that
your
in their
chiclets.
Pardon?
Go out and smile.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
I
that's what I
always try to do that.
Yeah. But
I don't.
that's because you've been there and you've experienced. I think most small business owners, I love working with small business owners because they're so kind and they're so compassionate, because they understand
We
the
do.
difficulties, right? And they
Yes.
understand the emotional difficulties of it too. And
Well,
so
because
it
you're
would be
upsetting
great.
your customers, you're upsetting yourself. Like, and the reality is like, I've stayed in my job, and I know you're the same, because of my
Mhm.
customers. Like, that's
Yeah.
it. Like, I honestly can't picture not getting that text from so and so at like whatever to book their trip for this year again.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
and to look at the research instead of going through cancellations and being skeptical, and I
Yeah.
get it. It's horrible. It is
Yeah.
horrible because I miss them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, I love it when I get an email from a client who's like, what's going on, or what's happening, or this, I have this on my mind. What do you think about? I mean, that makes my day. That's
Yeah.
turned some of these horrible days in the last couple of
Yeah.
months into a positive day, just that one
Yeah.
little note.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know, in talking to a lot of small business owners in the work that I do, because we've gone through this huge dark night of the soul, probably more so than individuals who have a job and kept their job during this process,
Oh my
is that
goodness.
a lot of us have taken a step back, right, and seen the bigger picture and gone, you know what? I've been working myself sick. I've been working nonstop. And while I love my clients and I absolutely would do anything for my clients, I'm also recognizing that I'm not serving
Yes.
myself and I'm not serving my family. And I don't know that I want to go back to the way I've been doing it before, because it wasn't in balance, which is a huge part of what any kind of, big world event is all about, is bringing us back into balance. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but the fear is, in talking to a lot of small business owners, is that if I don't go back, my customers are going to be upset. I'm going to let down these people who
No, they'll be
I
happy for
truly
you.
love. And I agree with you on that too. I do agree that we have to make that. But I think we can all play that small part in having that compassion and respecting the boundaries of these individuals who are now trying to reopen, but try to do it in this higher self soul place, right? Of finding balance for everybody involved and having compassion that, you know, for example, if someone has kids in the background, that they might be present, you know, and they might make some noise, and that's okay. Or somebody might choose to come back and not work, you know, 5 days a week or 7 days a week. Their business might choose to be closed on Sundays now. And rather than attacking them for that, saying, good for you, I support you in that, you know, because that's going to make the world a better place ultimately, not whether or not I get my ice cream today, because I need to deal with that, you know.
I really need to get ice cream now. Thanks a lot. Like I
know,
haven't eaten enough already. Oh,
you know what, Cara? We're gonna do a little ice cream, Muskoka ice cream tour that you like get on a bus.
That's what I think that we should do.
I think we should totally do that.
Oh,
and I
could
mean,
you imagine how bloated we'll be after all of that? But I don't care.
They do the butter tart tours. We should start the ice cream tours. There's brewery tours. Come on, this is like totally up our alley. We can do you can do like a yoga pose with an ice cream cone, like.
I would do really good at it. I would be really good. I mean,
I bring this up because I'm already seeing it on social media where business owners are doing their very best to navigate these changing requirements day by day. And it's not like we don't get an email direct from Doug Ford. That doesn't happen.
No.
So we're receiving the information at the same time the general public does. And I've really seen this lack of patience, not by everybody. Like most people are pretty understanding, but you know,
my company is awesome. They've been giving me notifications
or whatever. Yeah, like that is just, it's just not helpful. It's just not helpful. And it's not the society that I want to live in that, you know, these individuals, they've had families, they've had financial hardships, they're doing the very best they can, and they're trying to get up and open so that they can help others or serve others or bring joy to the world in whatever way that
or give us our roots back.
Yeah, our haircuts and everything else.
Yeah, I'm like I'm looking like brunette, blonde, gray.
But keeping in mind, you know, that even with we'll say that the hairstylist is that it's not, while yes, they want to get back to work and they need that money, it's not easy either to go from what they've just gone to and now be in a completely different space.
Is this bitch's hair gonna kill me?
And and it's not like people are going to get their hair cut twice, right? Like if you didn't get your hair cut during the pandemic, you're not going to now book a double appointment to get your hair cut. Like that money that they didn't earn is gone. Like they're not going to re-earn that because there's a lot of people who are saying, well, they're going to be really busy. And yes, they might be busier than they normally would, but they're not going to make up everything that they lost during that time. So they're still going to have a difficult year, even if the second half is busy. And for people to understand that, for there to be some education around that, not for pity or anything like that, because, you know, anyone who has chosen a career as an entrepreneur, a business owner knows the risk going into it, and they're not looking for pity. No, they're simply asking for some compassion, I think, in that process. And
it's hard.
I mean, I love the stories. I heard a story of I don't know where it was. It couldn't have been in Ontario, but a hair salon that reopened. I think it was last week, and they had someone who came in, and he was getting his hair cut or whatever, and then as he was leaving, he came back to the hairstylist and said, "Just so you know, it's not a mistake." And she was like a single mom, and most of the people in the hair salon were single moms. Well, he had tipped her like $2,000, and he had tipped like the person at the front desk $1,000 and the owner like $3,000. Like he had made this massive tip of like $8,000 or something, you know. And no business owner expects that or even wants that. But to know that kind of
every business owner wants that.
But to know that kind of like just the the awareness and the understanding and the compassion, right, goes a long way. I know,
Yes.
like, for me, the people who just understand that sometimes I might, like, right in the last couple of months, I've had to shift things up a little bit or make some changes. And so, you know, a simple thank you or a simple how are you doing or a smile, you know, is huge. And when we go out to the grocery store, we don't always have time to get into a lengthy conversation with people, but just acknowledging that they are maybe not having an easy time in that work right now and saying thank
Oh,
you,
yeah, I
it
don't
makes a
know. That's
difference.
it's a tough position. Like
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Like even if anybody has travel agents, be nice to them.
Please be nice to them.
Literally, we literally have to give money back. Like we
Yeah.
get paid and then we have to give it back. So basically, we're losing money and we're giving money back. So
Yes,
we're kind of like in a negative, negative, negative,
exactly. I'm in the same boat as you.
right?
Yeah, I get it.
I am like,
It's
but
been
you
a
know what?
couple
I
of
look
rough
at it
months.
like this. I'm like, I've signed up for my CERB.
Mm-hmm.
I take it, I set it aside if I need it, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
all I can do. And it's vacation time for Cara. And I will do some outside work and some work here. I'm actually doing okay pandemic because I'm trying to shift it a little bit.
Yes.
But I mean, this is like, honestly, this is not like because I'm amazing. It's because I really had to do a lot of work. I just
Yeah.
know what to do now. That's
Yeah.
it. It is not
Yeah.
because I'm like friggin' a superhero.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are. I would say you are. But
Woo!
there's that self work and reflection, which I think a lot of people have done during this process. You know,
Yes.
I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who have said, like, all of the struggles that they're going through, and at the same time, all of the realizations that they're having, and then trying to figure out how do we go from here. And you know, it's true in what you say, like, the travel and hospitality industry has been hit so hard. And I would say a lot of people, particularly those who are owners of small hospitality and travel tourism businesses, a lot of them are working still. They've been working this whole time to try
For
and
free.
for free. And in a lot of cases, not even for free, you're paying to work for
Right.
free because of
Yeah.
all the refunds that, you know, these businesses
Thank
have
you.
been doing. And I
Yes.
think, you know, with online on one of my accounts is I would really love for the average Canadian to do a little research into how many small businesses that work in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry have given refunds to their clients because of COVID pandemic, which in you could argue legally they didn't have to do. They could have done credits, they could have
It's
offered other
force
services.
majeure. They actually, like legally, you don't have to.
Exactly.
Like they literally,
And then compare that to how much Air Canada has refunded its clients in the last 3 years. Not even just the last three
yeah.
months, but in the
And
last three
the
years.
suppliers are just giving and the airlines are just giving travel credits right now. And travel credits are not cash.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you can use them for 2 years. But the problem with that is that everybody wants money back. They don't want to travel. But the
Yeah.
issue is if the airline refunds you, then guess what's going to happen? That airline is going to go out of business completely. We're going to
Yeah.
have no travel industry. So
Yes.
everybody really just has to understand this is a force majeure. And
Mm-hmm.
like even like my fees and stuff like that, some of them I could not give back because I
Mm-hmm.
can't. But a lot of commission and other things I did have to. But
Yeah.
this, you've got to understand. Like, I mean, it sucks, but like
Mm-hmm.
even the insurance companies backpedaled. They said
Oh
no
yeah.
because it's a force
Yeah.
majeure. They're not going to cover it. If you're
Yeah.
being offered a future travel credit, then that's it. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually compensation. And they told me honestly 2 weeks before they changed it that that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So I'm living a nightmare, but
I know.
I'm happy. I'm going to be going and cleaning outside today and getting paid for it, staying within my amount so that I don't, get in
Cara,
trouble with the government.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, I want to bring that to light because I mean, you and I get that, and anybody who works within this industry understands
Mhm.
that. But you know, all of the small resorts and stuff that Muskoka, I mean, that's just the bed and butter of Muskoka's tourism industry up here.
Mhm.
Um, you know, a lot of those resorts have either given the refunds, even though they didn't have to try and do the right thing, right? Because that is the right thing in the expectation of clients, or they haven't because they followed what the larger organizations have done. Like, you know, I'm just
There
using Air
was,
Canada as an
yeah, there's
example.
no choice. There's no choice, right?
Well,
All the airlines.
there is a choice, but there's different outcomes.
Yeah,
And so the
that's what I mean.
yeah, so there's a choice. It's just you might not like the outcome of that choice. But
Right.
the smaller companies that have chosen to follow the airline's response with the force majeure, they have gotten a lot of backlash. And I've seen some really awful negative things posted about them online. And I don't think that's fair either, because,
No.
you know, we have these businesses for no fault of their own that have been pushed between a rock and a hard place of, you know, I can refund my clients, but then I'll never be able to reopen, and I'm going to lose my property. I'm going to lose my life savings. I'm going to
You're
be
stuck. It's a
destitute.
horrible thing. It's why a lot of people in the industry right now don't want to stay in the industry. It's
Well, because
very, very,
we
there
don't
is
know
no
what's going to
protection.
happen.
There's no
Yeah.
protection. We're not protected
Yeah.
at all. But guess what? We've discovered that nobody's protected. Nobody.
Yes. And I'm probably going to be sharing, I have to keep watching. I started watching this documentary last night about the straw man, which talks about our legal entity as an individual and how that relates financially, which was really fascinating. Actually made me feel a lot better. Given
Good. You are
everything that's
such a
going on.
nerd.
I know I am. But I mean, I have a lot of friends who are lawyers and, you know,
I know
academics
you
and
do.
stuff. So I like to ask, I'm like, is this real? Like, is this legit? And some of my close friends are lawyers, not in Canada. So I wish they were, because I'd have a lot.
Oh,
I mean, it's probably good because they'd probably be annoyed by me. But
oh,
you know, there's a lot going
lawyers.
on, and I think just keeping in mind that people are making really difficult decisions. You know, everybody's making really difficult decisions right now, and they're trying to make decisions that are best for everybody, and they're trying to make decisions that are best in the long term. And we may not agree with them, and they may not be our choice, and they may not be what we want. But understanding these bigger pictures, and also, you know, instead of pointing fingers at each other, let's go after the systemic issues that create this, right? Because there's bigger things at play than an
Yes.
individual person who's, you know, doing their best to navigate these, you know, legislations and so forth that maybe aren't quite clear, or maybe even contradictory. You know,
Yeah.
like we had this lockdown forever, and then we have protests, and we have a prime minister who goes to the protests while at the same time we're not allowed to meet with more than 5 people, you know, and not really supposed to meet anyone out of our
There's
household. And
so many weird things. Yeah.
now
No.
magically that's lifted, which it had to be. There was no way they could keep that facade up afterwards. And it
No.
also, you know, negates the law. Like, if you were ticketed for spending time with 5 people, just bring a picture of Trudeau on his knee at the protest to your court case and ask them,
Noticed that part too. I
you
thought his
know.
hair looked great.
Yeah, I think he may have got a haircut and a
He
shave or
must have got a
something.
haircut because he looks like it was like, dude, we know that you're trimming it up. Like, you know, there's no way that you look perfect. You
I
know,
don't know. Do they have
coiffed.
a hair? Is there like a hairstylist on staff at the
I don't
Rideau
know. I know if I
cottage?
was
Like,
prime minister, I would, like, of course I'd have to pay for my own, but I would have I would have one
I mean, it's
because
interesting to see all the world leaders in their hairdos right now. That has been, you know, a fascination of mine. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't believe that I can even get my hair into, like, this is 2 buns. It's
Nice.
growing. It's growing. Did you see my picture on Facebook? My
Yes,
hair
it
was
looks
like
good.
down my back. That's what I want back.
Well, I actually learned how to cut my own hair in December. So I was like, I must have been getting some good info from my guides. Like,
Yes.
figure this out.
Oh, you always look good though. You don't have to do anything. Every
Oh,
time I see you, it's yoga. You know what it is she's healthy and she's a yogi and she's just a cutie pie. So that's what it is. She doesn't need to do anything.
it's not the yoga. It's all the lugging of mattresses and bed sheets and everything else around
Oh my
you.
God. I have to
The
dump
hard
a
labor.
mattress here. Oh, it's
Well, Cara,
10:30
we've gone over our time again. So maybe we should
again.
call it, because I know you got to get to your other
I
job
have to
now.
go clean boats.
You know, it's funny because you and I have both been looking into second jobs to keep us afloat. So I've been transcribing. I've been like doing the listening to audio files and
Yeah.
typing them up in the middle of the night. So that's been an interesting experience for me too.
I like to try to figure out what I could. I think it's exciting. I've chosen to be excited. I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be involved with my clients because they're my friends. Like that's just it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to be my friends forever.
Yeah,
So whatever I do, I know they're going to want to join me. It's going to be
yeah.
fun.
We'll be fine in the end. And I think you and I both know that. It's just navigating this intermediary time
Yeah.
frame.
And feelings too. Feelings are really shitty. Like sometimes feelings are, and here's the thing, our physical body produces that, right? As
Yeah.
a response to something else from whatever
Yeah.
we're seeing, our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to change my perspective so that I know that my brain might fire off some little happy things in there. Our
Mm-hmm.
bodies are very, our brain doesn't let us see everything that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, keep an open mind, everybody, and
Awesome.
stop putting perverted
Yeah.
things on our page.
Yeah. We don't need any of
Like,
that.
I don't want that. I don't have a big willy.
Me either. Not that it matters, but either
Yeah.
way, it shouldn't be a comment. Keep
Good.
it clean. Keep it clean.
Keep it clean, man.
Yeah, we're like a
Okay.
PG-13 over here. Maybe it's 12 now. I don't know what they changed the age limit
Like,
to,
what the
but
hell, man? What the hell? I know. Frig. Here, you can own a shotgun. You're a 10. Here you go.
all right, well,
Okay,
have a good one.
bye.
We'll see you next week.
See ya. Bye.